Hey everyone, today we're going to learn a beginner version of Mr. Jones by counting crows. We'll go through the chords used so that we're familiar and comfortable with playing them, and then we'll go into how the song is played, step by step, verse by verse, nice and slow and together. Before we start playing, the first thing you want to make sure is that your guitar is in tune. I suggest using a digital tuner because this will make sure that you're in perfect tuning. Today's song, Mr. Jones, is in standard tuning. Another thing to remember before you start playing is to make sure that your fingernails are cut nice and short. This will allow you to press down onto the strings a little bit easier, and it will eliminate any unnecessary muting or buzzing that you might get. So what we'll do is we'll name our fingers before we start. Finger number 1 is going to be your index finger. Finger number 2 is your middle finger. Finger number 3 is your ring finger. And finger number 4 is your pinky. We'll do this so that it's easier for me to explain to you where to put your fingers when I'm explaining how to play the chords. Okay, the first thing we want to do is we want to get in tune. So if you don't have a digital tuner, I'm in standard tuning, so what we'll do, since this song is played with a capo on the first fret, we'll tune without the capo on, and then we'll put the capo on after. So we'll start with our big E up here at the top. Okay, here we go. Okay, that's our big E. Now we'll go down to the A string. And there's our A. Now we'll go down to the D string. There's D. Now we'll go down to G. There's our G string, now down to the B string. And last but not least, our high E string. Okay, now that we're in tune, let's move into the chords used throughout the song.
The next chord we'll learn is an A minor, which also uses 3 fingers.
So the A minor chord uses fingers number 1, 2, and 3. So what we'll do to play this chord is finger number 2 will go onto the 2nd fret, onto the D string. Finger number 3 will go right below it, onto the 2nd fret of the G string. And finger number 1 will be put on the 1st fret on the B string. Now what we want to try to do is not to play our big E string. So I bring my thumb around. Now if you can't do that quite yet, you can play the big E and it won't make a huge difference, but it will sound cleaner without it. So the A minor chord should sound like this. Okay, the next chord we're going to use is a C chord.
The next chord is a C chord. The C chord uses 3 fingers.
Now the C chord is also played with all 3 fingers. Now finger number 1, 2, and 3, just like we did before. So how we'll play this is we put our number 3 finger onto the 3rd fret on the A string. Finger number 2 should be put onto the 2nd fret on the D string. Then we're going to skip the G string, and finger number 1 should be put onto the 1st fret on the B string. And a C chord should sound like this. Make sure you don't use this finger, this thing doesn't go anywhere. Okay, the next chord used is a D minor.
The next chord, D minor, uses 3 fingers, and you can interchange your fingers instead of using the same 3 all the time.
Now the D minor chord also uses fingers 1 through 3. Now for my own personal preference, which I'll show you after I demonstrate the proper way to play it, is to not use finger number 3, but to use finger number 4. This is a little bit easier if your hands aren't really big and you don't really want to stretch too much. But the initial way to play this is finger number 1 is going to go onto the 1st fret on the high E string. Finger number 2 is going to go on the 2nd fret on the G string, so 2 strings up, and then finger number 3 is going to be put onto the 3rd fret on the B string, like this. Now it should sound like so. Now, as I said, for me, it's easier for me to replace my 3rd finger with my 4th finger, kind of like this. So finger number 3 is no longer in the place of the finger number 4. It should sound like so. Exact same sound, except it's a little easier to play just because of the way your fingers have to stretch. Okay, now the next chord is an F chord, which is usually played as a bar chord, but we're going to play the F variation, which I believe is how he actually plays it in the song, and this makes it much, much easier to play. Or you can practice this song using the bar chord formation, like this.
The next chord is a variation of the F chord, which is not a bar chord. This also uses all 4 fingers.
So a regular F chord bar formation is like this. But for the purpose of this song, we're not going to use this version. We're going to use the version that doesn't have to stretch our whole finger, number 1, across all the frets. All we're going to do is we're going to take fingers number 3 and 4, we're going to put them on the A and the D string on the 3rd fret, right here. Okay? Finger number 2 is going to be put down on the 2nd fret on the G string, and then finger number 1 here is going to press down on both the B and the high E string on the 1st fret. So it should sound like so. Now the reason this makes the song easier is because this F variation will change into a D minor, and it should sound like this. So all we have to do is lift 2 fingers, our 3 and 4 lift off, and then the way I play my D minors is I put my pinky down here, and this finger number 1 can stay put, finger number 2 can stay put, and then we play it like so. Okay? Now we'll move into the last chord, which is the G chord.
The next chord, G, uses only 3 fingers. You can use whichever 3 fingers is most comfortable for you to complete the chord.
Now you can either play a G chord 3-finger, which is basically a G major, or you can play a 4-finger G, which is what I am more comfortable with. I'll teach you the regular way, and then you can decide how you want to play your G chord, either 4 fingers or 3 fingers. So, how the G chord is played is we'll play it with fingers number 2, 3, and 4. We'll leave number 1 out of the equation. So how we're going to place our fingers is finger number 3 is going to go onto the 3rd fret on the big E string. Finger number 2 is going to go onto the 2nd fret on the A string, like so. And then finger number 4 is going to come down here onto the 3rd fret on the high E string. And our G chord should sound like so. Okay? So now that we have all those chords learned, we'll move into how the song is actually played. Okay, now that we've learned all the chords that are used throughout the song, the structure of the song on a regular basis goes from an A minor to the F variation to a D minor, then to a G. Okay? So, again, that's A minor, F variation. Now when we switch from this F variation, fingers number 1 and 2, don't move them. This will be better, so lift these 2 fingers off, and all you have to do is put your pinky finger down to do your D minor. Now in regular time, this is how it should sound. And we'll play it again in just a minute, nice and slow together. So it should go like this. Okay? Now the second version, because he goes through this once, and then he goes from the A minor to the F variation, and then straight to a G. So every second line he skips the D minor. So regularly it's A minor, F variation, D minor, G, then A minor, F variation, G. Now that's the entire verse. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go through the verse together, nice and slow, and I'll explain which chords you have to play, and we'll do this drumming really slow. So let's do that. Okay, so we start out on the A minor chord. From there, F variation, D minor, and a G. Okay, now let's play it nice and slow together. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, let's do the next part. A minor, F variation, G. G. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in so that I can show you nice and close the transition from the F variation to the D minor, because this is going to make this much easier for you. Just watch. Okay, now that we're zoomed right in, you can see for the F variation is played like so. Now, this finger is on both these strings. It's not up like so. It's on both these strings. Now, because of this, this high E string on the first fret, that's going to be part of our D minor chord. So when we're in our F variation chord, what happens is if we lift finger number 3 and finger number 4, and we keep this form here with our first and second finger on the second fret on the G string, and we keep our first finger barred over both the B and the high E, then all we have to do is put our pinky finger down to get our D minor chord. So while changing a little bit faster, it'll look like this. Okay, let's keep going. Okay, let's go through that one more time. So we'll do A minor, F variation, D minor, and a G. Now the way I'm playing this right now is with a 4-finger G. If you want to, you can lift that finger. You don't have to use your third finger and just play a regular G. However you prefer. And then we go A minor, D variation, and then 2 times worth of a G. Okay? Now, let's play it together one more time. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right to the G. Alright, now that's the verse. He plays every verse the exact same way. So now what we'll do is we'll move into the chorus. Now the chorus is comprised of 3 different chords. The C chord is brought in and the D minor chord is dropped. Now the good thing about the way the chorus is played is that he goes from a C to the F variation, which means that most of your fingers are almost already in place. Makes it very simple for the transition. So our C chord is played with our 3rd finger on the 3rd fret of the A string, 2nd finger on the 2nd fret of the D string, and our first finger comes down here onto the first fret of the B string. Should sound like so. Okay. Now that also is the first chord in the chorus. Now I'll play the chorus to you. It goes C, D variation, G. So it should sound like this in regular time. Okay, now that's the whole chorus. Now let's play that together. So again, we're going to do a C, and then since we're in this shape, we take our fourth finger here from our C, we just put it down onto the D string on the 3rd fret, take finger number 2, move it up on the neck to 1 string higher, and for our finger number 1, we're already pressing down onto the 1st fret on the B string, so all we're going to do is we're going to flatten that one, okay? And then from here we go into a G, a 4-finger G as I like to play it. So now let's play it nice and slow together on the count of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. C, F variation, C, F variation, G, C again, to an F variation, okay. Now let's backtrack a little bit. Let's do our verse and then go right into our chorus, and we'll practice all of it together. And then after that, we'll learn the bridge. Alright, so let's get started onto our verse. So remember, our verse is an A minor, F variation, D minor, and a G. And then that same chord progression, except from the A minor to an F variation, and then 2 bars of a G. Okay? And like we just did with the chorus is going to be a C, F variation, and a G. Okay, now let's go through all of that nice and slow and together. So we'll start with the A minor. So on 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. D minor. G. Back to the A minor. To the F variation. Then to the G. One more time, all through together. A minor. F variation. D minor. To the G. Now A minor. To F variation. Now to the G twice. Now the chorus. C. F variation. G. Back to the C. F variation. Okay, now that's the verse and the chorus played through together. Now, we'll go into the bridge. Now the bridge is played nice and slow. He starts his singing gets quite slow as well, and it's pretty simple. He goes from an A minor to an F variation, then back to an A minor, then to a G major. Now he plays that real slow, and he goes through that exact progression 4 times. So I'll play it at regular speed, and then I'll come back and we'll play it together. So here's the bridge at regular speed. And then he would play that 2 more times. Okay, now let's do that together. So we'll start on the A minor, into the F variation, back to the A minor, and to the G. And that's played 4 times. So let's play it together now. 1, 2, 3, 4. G. And again, to the A minor. To the F variation. Back to the A minor. And finish it off on the G. Okay, now from the bridge, he goes right back into the chorus, and I believe that's how the song ends off. So practice that on your own, rewatch the video as many times as you need, and make sure you practice switching from those A minors to those F variations. The more you practice that, the better. And if you'd like to try it, to make it a little bit harder, go from the A minor to an F bar chord. It sounds a little bit thicker, and it's much harder to play, but if you try doing it that way, then you'll really get good at playing your bar chords. Alright, good luck everybody. Thanks for watching.